Hello everyone, welcome live to 3Y TV, tonight's broadcast of the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series here from the beautiful Dover International Speedway for tonight's running of the Total Nonstop Racing 200 presented by Punjabi Salami here at the racetrack that is guarded by Miles the Monster. You see him right there up at the top right corner of the main grandstand looking out across all of the parking lots here. I'm Peter Shorten. Joining me in the booth here tonight is Andre Grandbush. And Andre, great to be here at the Monster Mile, one of the trickier racetracks to go to here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series.
Absolutely one of the trickier tracks. Right there on the overhead, you can see a few cars having some trouble coming out of turn 4, and I think that's going to be a reoccurring thing tonight. This concrete track surface doesn't have the most grip, and of course, these drivers are going to be driving some trucks that are very fast but very aggressive. They're going to have a hard time tonight, but it's going to be a fun show.
Yeah, that is for sure. Both turn number 4 and turn number 2 here, very treacherous. Here is turn number 2. Kyle Lewis there, the number 18 machine, getting right up close to that safer barrier. But it is going to be an interesting race here tonight. Of course, this race does have a fixed setup, but that fixed setup is brought to you by one of our series sponsors, Craig Setup Shop, jumping on board here tonight. And not only are they providing the setup here tonight, they will also be sponsoring the Pole Position Award, as they do each and every week here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Big shout out to them for sponsoring that pole award, and of course that pole shootout here in just under 1 minute from now. If you're just joining us for the first time this season, as the number 60, Matt Vanderkoy, turns into a little bit of a top there down the front stretch. If you're just now joining us for the first time this season, well, what have you missed? Why haven't you been here? We have had 6 different winners in the first 6 races of the season. And Andre, here this year, you win and you're in the chase for the championship. And there's only 4 spots left, only 10 drivers able to go for that championship. And we've already used up most of the positions.
Yeah, it's wild to see when you have that many different winners this early in the season. But of course, anything can happen. And with the variety of circuits that we've gone to so far, you definitely see that kind of thing happening every now and again. So I think tonight that trend is going to continue. We might see another first-time winner. Dover's one of those tracks that you either love it or you hate it. And the drivers that love it tend to just find something that nobody else can, and they will absolutely dominate this track given the opportunity. And of course, qualifying beginning now, as we have a few cars down on the infield as the practice timer has ran out, qualifying with 30 seconds on the board so far. Right now, nobody having posted a completed lap, but multiple drivers out there getting those tires heated up, getting those out laps completed. 24 car among those, Colin Ulrey in the 62 as well. Now the 84 truck making his way out onto the circuit alongside Ben Izenga, the 07 car. Seems like the track's getting pretty busy pretty early. Nobody waiting for any overcast or any track temps to change or anything like that. They're just getting right out there trying to turn some times here, Peter.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. We do apologize for that. Had a little bit of technical issues there. I had to step away from the live feed. But right now it is Jason Freeman in the number 20 machine who's fastest on the board. But here comes Andrew Himmelman. He's going to jump up top of the board in the number 8 machine. A little bit of a new look on that number 8. And Ben Adams was up here in the 3-wide TV booth last night, and he said that he wanted something a little gaudy. Well, he got something a little bit gaudy. That number 8 machine looking like a absolute piece coming out of turn number 4, sliding his way. But it looks like he might have a shot here of picking up another pole here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. There's the number 50 machine of Bill Edwards back in the series here tonight. He does have that number 50 up there inside the top 3 as well. There's JT Poole, winner from this season. There have been so many different winners, Andre, that really it's hard to call the race here tonight. I know a lot of people in the league saying, well, over the last couple of seasons, kind of 2 drivers have combined to win 75% of the races. But this year, it's been all gloves are off, and the competition level is as high as it's ever been.
It absolutely is. And again, I think a track like this is going to really exemplify that and show exactly how competitive this league is, because I think even though sometimes at Dover you see a lot of separation, these guys, I think they're going to be able to stick with each other. These qualifying times are right there. And like you said, when it comes to calling this race, just looking at the board right now, I couldn't call it if I tried. We got a lot of drivers within just a tenth or two, all the way back from the pole, all the way back to about P11, are within a tenth of one another. So a lot of really close times. Drivers getting this thing figured out. So far, Ben Izenga is still on the pole with a 22.428 to Andrew Himmelman's 22.444. So 0.02 of a second difference between first and second so far. We do have 2 minutes, 2 minutes left in qualifying for anybody who has yet to turn a lap, but it does look like the majority of the field has put their times up on the board. I should note the number 19, Evan Gilbert, he only got his out lap done. He made one lap, which is generally the slower lap, and on his second lap, which would have been the fast one, he got a little loose coming out of the corner. So one driver already falling victim to Miles the Monster. He's probably going to be starting a little bit further back in the grid, which, man, that's going to be tough to overcome at a track like Dover. It's not necessarily one lane, but it's hard just to make laps here, you know, let alone trying to navigate traffic and work your way all the way to the front. But we're just going to have to wait and see exactly how some of these drivers that aren't quite starting where they want to handle it and how they adapt.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. This racetrack is very difficult to pass, Andre, but this is a racetrack where you can make a pass. You can be patient here. You can wait for the driver in front of you to make a mistake. Like you mentioned, this track is hard to drive and really hard to hit your marks lap after lap after lap because this concrete surface really eats tires, and I do believe it is now the oldest surface in all of NASCAR, being paved back in the early to mid 90s. So this racetrack does eat through tires, and you can see that statue of Miles the Monster there. He has a car in his hand up there at the top of the screen right underneath your ticker up there. It is going to be a fun one here tonight, but does look like Ben Izenga will be picking up the pole award here tonight, brought to you by our friends over at Craig's Setup Shop. And of course, he will have the opportunity to go for the Buttkicker Challenge. Big shout out to our friends over at Buttkicker for sponsoring the Buttkicker Challenge, trying to give a driver the opportunity to kick the butt of the field. We'll see if Ben Izenga, the 07, if he will elect to start at the tail end of the field. Of course, tonight being race number 7, we haven't had a driver win the Buttkicker Challenge so far this season, and the first driver to do so will be picking up a little bit of cash. And let's see if we can dial up tonight's winner of the Craig Setup Shop Pole Award here on 3-Wide TV. We'll get a quick word with driver of the 07 machine, Ben Izenga. Ben, this is Peter Short, 3-Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, Peter, I got you.
Well, I'll tell you what, you and that 07 machine here picking up the Craig Setup Shop Pole Position Award up at the front of the field. First off, tell us about your qualifying lap.
Yeah, so that was actually the second lap that I put down, and I thought it was going to be no good. First lap was like a 490, so that would have been good for second, but I knew I had more in it, so I went ahead and did a second lap. And 1 and 2 was pretty much the same as my first, but 3 and 4, it hooked on the bottom like I've never felt it before, and it was awesome.
Well, you definitely did turn in a good lap there. As, ooh, man, 62 gets loose coming out of turn number 4. But hey, it hooked up for you. Tonight's setup is a Craig's Setup Shop setup. They are not only sponsoring the Pole Position Award, but providing the setup here tonight. Tell us what you're expecting to see out of that car. And then also, we do have the Buttkicker Challenge that is up to $35 to win if you want to start at the tail end of the field.
Well, yeah, first I just want to say this setup is fantastic. It drives really well. I know the iRacing fixed setup here in the trucks isn't that great. It's really tight, but this setup drives really well. It fades really well, too. On the long run, it drives pretty well as well. So, yeah, it's pretty awesome. Craig's Setup Shop did an awesome job with the setup. And the Buttkicker Challenge is not going to be for me tonight. I've had the worst luck ever for the last month, ever since Michigan, pretty much. So I'd like to turn that around and actually finish where I run.
Well, Ben, congratulations on picking up the pole. Shame you're not going to be picking up the Buttkicker Challenge here tonight. Someone's going to have to go for it at some point. Only James Arella being the only driver to attempt it so far this season in his number 9 machine. But that pot will go to $40 next week, brought to you by Buttkicker Challenge. Ben, best of luck here tonight at Dover. 200 laps presented by Total Nonstop Racing and Punjabi Salami. Congratulations, and maybe we'll get to see you in Victory Lane at the end of the night.
Thanks, Peter. Hopefully I'll talk to you later.
All right, well, we'll let Ben get back to his S2R teammates, but you mentioned it, Andre. This racetrack is very difficult to pass at, and that's probably what is in the back of the mind of the driver of the 07 here tonight.
Absolutely. This is just one of those tracks where I wouldn't expect anybody to pick up the Buttkicker Challenge just because, again, it's so hard just to make laps here consistently when you're on your own, let alone when you're around 40 other cars and when you're trying to navigate those cars and you have to change your line and enter lower than you want to or higher than you want to. As we go on board with the number 80, he's getting a little bit squirrely, but, well, a little bit more than squirrely, actually. But I got to wonder, Peter, what track is going to be the track where somebody finally picks up that Buttkicker Challenge? Because it's going to happen sometime in the season, I would imagine. It's got to. I mean, that cash is going to be a little too tempting for one of these pole winners, and they're going to take the challenge, but it's got to be the right track. And I got to think, what's your opinion? What kind of track would you take the Buttkicker Challenge at?
Well, I really expected someone to go for it last weekend at the Roval, but no one did try going for the Buttkicker Challenge last week at the Roval, and I thought the Roval would be a perfect opportunity, A, because it's a road course, and B, it had plenty of passing opportunities. But a lot of drivers said, you know what, I just don't want to give up that track position earlier in the race. We saw a lot of cautions. I think we had a lot of time to make up ground in that race. It was kind of a long one here on 3Wide TV last week, but no one picked it up. So I'm kind of, and that was the only road course this season for someone to do it. Of course, you look at the opportunity maybe on a super speedways. Matt Vanderkoy pounds the inside wall back behind. I thought, well, maybe a super speedway, but your chances of winning on a super speedway are slim. Let's be honest. you basically have as good as a shot as anyone else in the field to walk away with a win in the super speedway. Doesn't matter where you start. So I don't know. You said it. The money's going to be tempting. The money is just going to keep going up. Someone's going to have to try it. I mean, $40 on the line next week when we get to round number 8 right here on 3Wide TV next week, 9 o'clock Eastern. It's going to be... I mean, if you put $40 and dangled in front of my face, Andre, I would take it. I think I would take it even if it was Dover. If it was $35, I think I'd go for it just to have some fun, go out there and have some fun. But these drivers have their eyes on the prize, and they do know that the opportunity of making it into the playoffs is getting shorter week after week. Checkered flag has fallen here in the warm-up session. Let's see if we can bring up tonight's starting lineup for you folks right here for the Total Nonstop Racing 200 presented by Punjabi Salami, Ben Izenga, and Andrew Himmelman on row number 1. Row number 2, did I say Ben Izenga and Andrew Himmelman? I hope I did. Bill Edwards and JT Poole on row number 2. Jason Gracias and Ben Adams on row number 3. Jason Freeman, Jeff Price, rounding out row number 4, and rounding out your top 10 here tonight, Tristan Maher and Colin Ullery. There, Andre.
And looking a little bit further back, we got Mitchell Adams and Monty Glover Jr. making up the next row in 11th and 12th. A little bit behind them, it's going to be Travis White and Christopher Darling, 13th and 14th. TJ Buck and Ben Mashburn behind them, followed by Zach Howell and Garrett Gleason. Peter Sirto and Jordan Scheffler behind them. Doug Milner and Philip Scott going to make up 21st and 22nd. Evan Burke, Matt, I'm sorry, I think that name is cut off there. Matt, help me out here, Peter.
Yeah, it's Matt Vanderkoy, but good old SDK does not like the Vander in his name. But yeah, that number 60 will be coming from deep in the field. I'll just take you through the rest of the field here tonight. Jamar Dumas, Evan Gilbert, 25th, 26th. Nick Bradley, Doug Neal, 27th and 28th. And 29th and 30th, Kyle Lewis and Justin White, making out your 30 truck field here at Dover International Speedway for the Total Nonstop Racing 200 presented by Punjabi Salami, and the trucks already on the backstretch. What a sight to see here for all of your fans back at home. definitely going to be a fun one here tonight. Thanks for joining us here on 3Y TV. Let's check out the chat. Going to give some quick shout-outs here before the drop of the green flag. But Tana Himmelman, Allman Leader 425, Zakara in the chat saying, oh boy, Garrett Gleason in the chat. He's also out there on the racetrack. Stay tuned sports as always. King Crop Vod saying, let's go number 43. Peter John Serto rooting on Peter Serto. And William Kerwin joining us in the chat as well, saying, here we go. And that is right on cue because pace car's down pit road. Green flag about to come out. These drivers going to have to watch for a little bit of wheel spin. But we're racing here at Dover, Andre.
Look at that great start the number 8 got on the outside. It faded away as they got into turn 1. Luckily, he was able to find a way to slot down into the bottom, but he had a really great start on the high line. Seemed like the leader down on the bottom lane on his tires just a little bit, and the 8 was able to almost capitalize. But Dover's one of those tracks where if you're going to make the move, you have to be certain you can make it, and just having half a car length up on the high lane isn't necessarily enough. So the number 8, Andrew Himmelman, he made a good choice there, backed out of it, fell back into second. Now we're going to single file out for pretty much the top 3. Bill Edwards running P3, just lagging a little bit behind our 2 front runners. JT Poole behind them. Jason Gracias in that number 1. Jason, a driver who's had some really good runs this season, looking to carry that momentum. He got a little loose coming out of turn 4. And Jason Freeman behind them. So far, a lot of, I would say a lot of give and take here on the opening segment of this race.
Yeah, a lot of the field getting single file. You see Jeff Price, the number 14, just kind of ducking out below the number 5. A patriotic scheme this week for Ben Adams in the number 5 machine right there in front of him. A little bit of a different look for him. Meanwhile, back behind, you see the number 49. That's Mitchell Adams, your reigning series champion here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series right there. Has MaxGrafix.co on the hood. Another MaxGrafix.co truck out there is Chris Darling. There is Darling. Had a not so great race last week at the Roval, but trying to bounce back here tonight. Here comes Colin Ullery side by side with the number 14 machine a little bit further up. That's not Colin Ullery. There's Colin Ullery, Jeff Price, and Monty Glover in the number 10 machine. We saw some troubles out of that number 10 machine in practice, Andre, having issues keeping all 4 wheels underneath it, but so far so good here in the opening 5 laps. Oh, but yeah, as I say that, what a save.
Yeah, that was a save. I think the issues have not gone away for that machine. Unfortunately, the driver of that number 10 seems to be fighting this thing. And the thing about that, with this setup they have, it's very fast. And I think the drivers love it. But when you have setups that are fast, generally, the faster it is, the harder it is to drive, especially on the short runs. Our pole sitter mentioned that this setup fades really well. When the tires start to wear, it still handles really good. Well, how do you get it to turn late into the run? Well, you make it turn way more than it needs to early in the run. So as we're only 7 laps in, these trucks are going to be loose. They're going to be sliding all over the place, and it's probably going to take a few laps before we see these trucks really start to settle in and the tire wear gets them calmed down a little bit.
Yeah, that is the case. I do believe from what I've seen in these trucks, we're looking for a battle a little bit further back in the pack. This is a battle for 26th position with Jamar Dumas getting around Kyle Lewis. We do have a couple of trucks already a couple laps down. Peter Serto is one of them. Not sure what happened to Peter Serto. We know Justin White had to take a tow back to pit road. Hopefully Peter Serto is all right and maybe can get back out there on the racetrack. But for right now, the number 32 is sitting on pit road. Maybe some connection issues for that number 32 machine, but up at the front of the field, it is the driver who picked up that Craig Setup Shop Pole Award, leading the way. He's so far led all of the opening 9 laps, now working lap number 10. Andrew Himmelman back behind him, 3rd place qualifier. Bill Edwards right there. In fact, you have to go all the way back to 6th position for a driver to have picked up a couple spots from the start. That is Jason Freeman there. But your front 5 here so far, Andre, holding serve from right where they started.
They have kind of stagnated in position, but I called it before the race. I said I didn't think we were going to see too much separation, especially towards the front of the field, just because of the competition level in this league. And we're definitely seeing that so far. Himmelman stayed with the leader right on his bumper for the first 10 laps. Now he's starting to fall back a little bit in that 50 truck. Bill Edwards right there in P3. He's going to make a move on the high side, get clear of him going into the 1. Maybe can he dive down? Yes, he can. So the 8 car is starting to fade a little bit, but for the most part, the leader has struggled to drive away with it so far. And I think as this race progresses, we're going to see a lot of these little sub-packs form almost. You're going to have the lead pack, the pack a little bit further back. But Dover just isn't going to allow these guys to get too far separated, as the 8 is really struggling with that thing, Peter. He is getting loose out of almost every single corner. I got to wonder if being pinned to the bottom is causing that truck to jump out on him.
Yeah, let's go on board here with the number 8 machine of Andrew Himmelman going down the backstretch, going off into turn number 3. One thing we haven't really mentioned here tonight, folks, is the fact that this racetrack kind of races like a roller coaster. You jump out of turn number 4, then you blast down the front stretch, you get out of the field, the truck get light when you get out of turn number 2 and turn number 4. Just watch this. You're heavy on the wheel, and then all of a sudden it gets really light, and you just kind of have to be really gentle on the wheel, because if you have a little bit too much wheel in it, Andre, you will definitely break loose, as maybe Andrew Himmelman just trying to save those tires a little bit here as he does slide back behind now the number 26 of JT Poole, who's up into 3rd. But watching up at the front of the field, it is still Ben Izenga, Bill Edwards up currently sitting 1-2. Let's see if we can compare the last couple of lap times for your top 2 right now. There you see it. Ben Izenga just growing that gap now up to almost a second over the second place number 50 machine of Bill Edwards. Hopefully Bill Edwards' mom is in the chat here tonight. Always rooting on Bill here on 3 Wide TV. Hopefully you'll sit back and enjoy the show here tonight. Let's go a little bit further back in the pack. Here's Tristan Maher and the number 49 machine give that spot to Mitchell Adams. And that number 49 of Mitchell Adams, folks, he just picked up the points lead. Not only is he the back-to-back series champion here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, but he is your points leader after Chris Darling last week had an absolute terrible finish at the Roval. Mitchell Adams has been charging his way up to the top of the leaderboard in points, and here tonight trying to charge up to the front again as he tries to make this move on Ben Adams. This is for 7th.
He's making it look easy out here. He got right to the bottom of the number 5 for P7. Now, hooking that thing right around that mid to low groove. He's going to get clear. He's going to be up another spot. He is carving his way through the field, and it just looks like that truck is really smooth going through these corners. The driver is just putting in some absolutely perfect inputs. A lot of these trucks, you see him coming out of the corner, the rear end wants to sway around. Looks like they're really fighting it, but not him, man. He is making it look easy, and I think you give him some time, we're going to see him right up in this lead pack. And speaking of the lead pack, looks like that is Jason Gracias in the number 1 truck. And he's also looking to pick up another position here on the number 8, who seems to be continuing to fade back, like you said, Peter, maybe saving the tires. That's definitely a good move to make if you can manage to save your tires and save your equipment at Dover. That long run play is definitely the move that I would make, but so far it seems like he would be the only one doing it. Everybody else seems to be absolutely pushing their trucks to their limits, including Gracias, who's now trying to get around him. Had the opportunity on the bottom, lost it a little bit there, had to fall back in line, regroup. Now he's going to try it again, but now as we get further into the run, lap 21, going into 22 here, this is where we start to see a little bit of separation amongst the front runners. The leader, you mentioned Izenga getting out to about a second lead. Well, now it sits at about 1.4 seconds, and Bill Edwards is lapping about 1/10 slower per lap than the leader. That being said, Bill probably burned up his tires working his way through the field. I mean, he made a lot of passes getting up there, and right now he's probably at a distinct disadvantage. But once we get to this first pit sequence and everybody's sort of on level footing, I think we're going to see that 50 truck make some moves.
Speaking of making moves right now, Jason Gracias just made the move on JT Poole. Poole got kind of upended by the number 8 of Andrew Himmelman. Himmelman was able to get by him, and when the 26 cut up to the high side, Gracias pounced, and now he's up to the 4th position. So move Andrew Himmelman back up to 2nd. Back up to 3rd, 1 spot from where he started, which was 2nd. JT Poole now slid back to 5th. And then you have Jason Freeman and Mitchell Adams. And I've been watching this number 49 truck here, Andre, because I mentioned him just a couple laps ago that Mitchell was starting to move his way forward. But as you can see, that gap in the last 5 laps has closed from over a second down to just about 0.3 of a second. Mitchell Adams here is flying.
He is absolutely booking it. You can see when he goes through the corner, he is pushing that thing. Again, his truck looks really smooth, but it looks like now he is just getting a little bit more aggressive on that throttle, a little bit more aggressive on the steering. And he has to be. I mean, he's got 2 fast trucks in front of him, and they are not going to make it easy to pass. So if he's going to get around them, he not only has to wait for the right opportunity, but he's got to make sure that he is aggressive enough and close enough to capitalize on that. So now, looks like they're going to go side by side in front of him as we ride on board. They're making their way through the corner. The number 20 truck, of course, piloted by Jason Freeman. He's almost going to chop up in front of the 26, but he thought better of it, which was good because he was not clear. That was very close to being a moment there, as the 49 now making a move on the 26. So Mitchell Adams trying to get around JT Poole as he is going to get clear going into 1. Now, so the sights are going to continue to be set on Jason Freeman, but these two very similar in pace. The only difference is, looks like Jason Freeman is having some internet issues. I don't know if the broadcast is picking this up, but he has been blinking out relatively consistently from my perspective. So if that continues, I got to wonder if the drivers behind him don't use that as a bit of an excuse to say, "Hey man, you're blinking out. You better just let me by." You know, it's kind of a cheesy play, but I've seen it played out before that way.
Yeah, I have as well. That's definitely something that you do not want to be around if you're one of those other cars that's not having any connection issues. You saw TJ Buck have a big slide coming out of turn number 4, just lost the spot to Colin Ullery, who is now up in the 12th position. Meanwhile, up in front of them, Christopher Darling just recently made the move on Tristan Maher in that number 17 truck right there. But we are closing in on lap number 30 here. All green so far here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. A little bit of a change from what we saw last week. Uh-oh.
It was...
All right, folks, I believe we're finally back here on 3 Wide TV. Do apologize, not sure what all went wrong, but hopefully everything is now good. Let us know if you're back here. Do apologize for that. But yeah, iRacing and YouTube had some problems prior to getting it sorted out. And unfortunately, it seems like it has stuck around, but you haven't missed anything out there on the racetrack because it is still was the 07? What's happened to the 07 machine of Ben Izenga?
What?
Yeah,
I was going to say, I've noticed a few drivers are further back than when the feed got dropped there. For example, not only the 07, but Mitchell Adams, who was all the way up into P4, I believe, is now back in 15th. So I think the pit sequence has gotten underway, Peter. I think that's what's happening. So a little bit earlier than I would have expected, but as I look at pit road, yeah, there's a lot of trucks making their way on and off. So an early start to the pit sequence here at Dover.
Yeah, you can see Ben Izenga right there went 31 laps under his first pit sequence. And we got a couple of other drivers on pit road right now. Nick Bradley's coming down. Ben Adams on pit road in the number 5 truck. So open pit lane very, very quickly here, but that has given the race lead to the number 50 of Bill Edwards right now. And you see him in the Wine and Whiskey Review number 50 coming out of turn number 2. Andrew Himmelman has been tracking him down in the number 8 machine. In fact, if you look at the front 2, you can see that over the last 5 laps, Himmelman able to close in about 1/10 of a second, not a whole lot, but right back behind him is one driver who has already come down pit road. That is the number 49 machine of Mitchell Adams, and Mitchell here going to absolutely blow on by your 2 race leaders. Now, he is still going to be about 2 laps down when he gets around Bill Edwards here, but caution flag has come out, and that is going to absolutely kill these drivers who just came.
Gracias involved.
Yeah, just came down pit road. Let's see what happened here. This is the 84 of TJ Buck, hearing that something happened with the number 84. And, comes up the racetrack right into, oh, man.
Oh, no.
Straight up into the number 1 machine of Jason Gracias. Let's get another look at that. And I'll tell you what, Andre, this is one of the hardest pit lanes to get into in all of NASCAR, because you have to really drag the brake. You have to drag the brake, drag the brake, drag the brake, and it looks like TJ Buck just missed it, and then he got back on the throttle, spun the tires, went up, straightened up the racetrack into Jason Gracias.
Just a series of unfortunate events. Like you said, this is one of the most difficult pit roads on the circuit. The angle that you're coming into this pit road at is just absolutely brutal, and it is a lot sooner at the corner exit than on a lot of other tracks. So this is riding on board with Jason Gracias. You can see, of course, there's the truck trying to pit ahead of him, a little bit of tire smoke, and just gassed it a little bit too much. 84 slid up, and it was just, it's one of those things where it's so easy to do. You realize that you missed pit road, and at that point you're flustered. You're thinking, oh man, I messed up. You're kind of panicking. So what do? You get on the throttle. You're trying to minimize the time that you've lost. And unfortunately, sometimes when you do that, the truck just can't take the input, and that throttle's going to spin you around like it did. He obviously did not do anything intentionally there. That was just a really unfortunate situation, especially for Gracias, who had been running really well. And like you said, Peter, this absolutely turns the race on its head, because you've got drivers like Mitchell Adams, Ben Izenga, drivers who were absolutely blowing the doors off the competition in the first stint. They're trapped a lap down now.
Yeah, and you can see that there, that your top 12 drivers, they all had stayed out. They've all made it down pit road here. They just came down pit road about a lap ago. But really, a lot of trucks now getting a lap down, including Ben Izenga. We're waiting to see if Ben Izenga will pick up our Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award under this caution flag or not. Just waiting to see if he's the lucky one to get that Lucky Dog Award. In fact, it might have already been awarded to the number 10 machine, I do believe. Monty Glover Jr., I believe, does pick up the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. And so that is, like you said, really going to turn this race on its head here at Dover International Speedway, folks. Definitely going to be an interesting one. Hopefully the stream is all back up and running. Josh Sobel saying a lot smoother now. Yeah, hopefully it is. I had to do some DNS flushing, and it seemed like that seemed to fix it. So hopefully that is the case here tonight. Tana Himmelman saying Ben has a pretty awesome Memorial Day paint scheme this week. Yeah, let's check out that number 5 machine. Now, he was one of the unlucky drivers who got caught a lap down, but there it is. Happy Memorial Day in honor of our heroes on the hood, and really cool looking scheme this week by Ben Adams there, Andre.
Absolutely. I've always had a soft spot for patriotic schemes. I think they are some of the coolest looking schemes, and of course, the purpose behind them is very meaningful. That is an absolutely amazing scheme on that number 5, and I gotta agree. That's an awesome thing. So I do want to point out, it looks like Mitchell Adams is going to take a wave around, which is potentially going to put him back on the lead lap, and also Ben Izenga is on the lead lap. I'm not sure if he got that through the lucky dog or he took a wave around, but right now my timing and scoring is saying that Ben Izenga is on the lap. So that is absolute game changer for Izenga. I think that's going to improve his odds of recovering from this situation quite greatly. And also, another driver update, Jason Gracias in that number 1 truck. He has pulled it into the garage. His team is packing it up. A little bit too much damage, I think, to continue on. That was a hard front-end hit. That very easily could have been some engine damage, maybe some radiator damage, things like that. So can't really blame him. Unfortunate end early on in this race, but that's racing. That is, sometimes these things happen. As we do have a replay. Looks like something might have happened under caution here, Peter.
Yeah, trying to figure out what happened to the number 18 machine of Kyle Lewis here under the caution flag. Sorry, we're going to miss the green flag here, and that's kind of sinful. But coming out of turn number 4 under caution, the engine just grenaded on that number 18 machine. But here we are back live. Green flag is out. It is Bill Edwards and the number 8 of Andrew Himmelman going toe-to-toe off into turn number 3, side by side for the race lead coming out of turn number 4.
And we know Himmelman has a lot of short run speed. So even though he's stuck on this high side, he seems to be making it work as he gets the advantage going into 1. And of course, down on the low line, that number 50 truck is going to get the advantage in the center of the turn. But right here, that's where that number 8 is going to get the run. Will he get clear? Yes, he will. Now, clear. He's going to dive down to the bottom, and we have a new race leader, Andrew Himmelman, in that number 8 with 50 close behind. Mitchell Adams is still 1 lap down, so he did not get the wave around that I thought he was going to get. And Ben Izenga is currently 4 seconds back, the second to last car on the lead lap, back in P12. So just an update on those drivers who were our front runners. But looking back towards the front of the field, I think we got a battle in our hands brewing here, Peter, because the 8 truck we've seen a lot of short run speed out of, and Bill Edwards we've seen long run speed out of. So give that some time. Whoa, is the 26. Big moment for the 26. He checked up a lot. I'm not sure if he was just trying to let the 11 truck go there, or if he just got a little bit squirrely. But either way, he's going to drop back another position. And they are really not leaving an inch up front here.
Yeah, they are not leaving anything out there on the racetrack. Jordan Scheffler now up inside the top 5. He's gained 15 positions from where he started here tonight in his Essentia Water number 13 machine. Andre, what happened?
The 24 truck a little bit squirrely out of the corner. Now he's on the bottom lane there. I kind of reacted to that maybe a little bit more than was justified, but I seen him pointed towards the infield, and I thought he was going for a ride, but he turned that kind of tail into an opportunity because he got underneath the truck above him, took the run, went to the next corner, made the pass. So Ben Mashburn in that number 24 truck continuing to close in on the leader. So another driver who's picked up quite a few spots since the beginning of this event.
Yeah, let's go on board with him here in that number 24 truck. You saw a little bit of smoke. I do believe that is probably from Kyle Lewis continuing to sit on pit road trying to get a new engine in his number 18 Toyota Tundra. Still don't exactly know what caused that motor to blow. As Peter John Zertlo in the chat saying, awesome, Ben. I think that is... Oh, contact! Jordan Scheffler, the number 13 machine, goes around into the inside wall. Caution flag is out. Philip Scott goes around off the nose of the 07 of Ben Izenga. Caution flag in the air, and still a couple of trucks trying to slalom their way through.
Yeah, that was absolute chaos there. A few drivers had nowhere to go for a minute. I thought Philip Scott in that 99 was going to be able to keep it off the inside wall. It was a real lazy spin down into the pit road wall, but he unfortunately made quite a bit of contact with it, and the rear end of that car as well as the passenger side has been in quite a bit. So as we take a look at a replay here, you can see it was just a real lazy spin, but unfortunately, man, that inside wall at Dover, it'll sneak up on you real fast. There is no escaping it once you start to go around. So we're going to go on board here. You can see just diving into the corner, running their lines, and in front of them, looks like just a little bit of contact is going to turn him down. And Dover is not a track that really gives you any room for error. I mean, that apron, if you can even call it that, is not very forgiving. And once he gets down there, that wall struck. And of course, behind him, a lot of drivers reacting to this incident going on. The 99 checking up, getting on the brakes to try to avoid the wreck. Doing really what he should have done. But the car behind him, I mean, he couldn't see. When you're behind a guy that close, it's really difficult to see what's going on in front of you. So you can't really blame him there for not reacting quite as quickly. It was just one of those accordion effects we see so many times at races like this.
Yeah, so that is definitely a couple of trucks that were very, very quick here now on pit road. And unfortunately for the number 13 of Jordan Scheffler, I was just mentioning how he's picked up 15 spots in the opening first quarter of the race or so, and unfortunately he is going to have to get a lot of that damage repaired here on his particular race truck. Now let's see if we can figure out who is going to be, and I believe it's right there. Your Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award under this caution is the number 49 of Mitchell Adams, and Andre, man, getting names right. Andre, you mentioned that he was not back on the lead lap. Well, now he is, by courtesy of Brookstone Animal Hospital, giving out their Lucky Dog Award to the number 19. 49, excuse me.
Well, he carved his way through the field one time. I would not put it past him to do it another time. It's unfortunate that, he finally gets up front and then that situation happens and it puts him right back where he started. But that 49 truck has been fast, and he's going to be able to come down pit road, get some fresh tires, get that thing serviced up, and give him some time. He's going to be back up front. It's just going to be a bit of a challenge is all, and I think he's up to that challenge. So some of these other drivers up front, though, got to wonder what they're starting to think, because this race started out relatively clean and green. I mean, we had a pretty long run up until that first pit sequence, and I think a lot of these drivers were starting to adjust their driving styles and their strategies accordingly, kind of expecting this thing to go green. But now, cautions are breeding cautions. We've had a handful of yellows here in the last few laps. Maybe these drivers starting to recalculate a little bit, start thinking about, what if this race continues on this way and we don't quite get the long green flag runs we were having.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. And of course, we do have another caution flag coming up here in about 15 laps from now. In fact, just under 15 laps from now, where we have the one and only stage caution here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. They come each and every week at the 1/3 race distance, but that is it. That is the only stage caution of the race. It gives the drivers an opportunity to reset, get their trucks fixed, whatever, under that stage caution. But we could possibly go caution-free for the last 2/3 of the race. So, yeah, it's Stay Tuned Sports in the chat saying, there's a fire on pit road. Well, that's the number 18 machine still sitting down there trying to get his truck fixed, Kyle Lewis. There's the fire. That Toyota Tundra just absolutely billowing out the smoke out of the front of that truck. Hopefully he can get a new engine in that thing, get it back out there on the road before it is all said and done here tonight. Maybe able to pick up a couple of positions from some of the other trucks that are having some bad luck as well. Folks, why don't you, while you're watching here tonight, why don't you go on your Facebook, your Twitter, whatever the case, why don't you share the link to tonight's race? National Sim Racing Association 3Wide TV, we both shared the link today on Facebook. Why don't you go to either of the Facebook page, whether it's the National Sim Racing Association or 3Wide TV, share the link for tonight's race. Let your friends know about what's going on here on the channel, and hopefully they can sit back, relax, and have a good time with us up here in the booth. Sometimes we're lighthearted, Andre. Sometimes, not always. Sometimes we're pretty serious, but sometimes we're just in here to have a good time with all these drivers here tonight at the Dover International Speedway. As you see, pace car lights have turned off, and it will be Andrew Himmelman and Bill Edwards leading us back to the green flag. Pace car is off, and Himmelman's already on the loud pedal early here. You have to be mindful about a little bit of wheel spin here at Dover every once in a while, especially with how much banking this racetrack has. But Himmelman here has an absolute spectacular restart as they go toe-to-toe back behind him with Bill Edwards sliding back here a little bit, Andre.
Yeah, I can't quite get a feel for that number 50 truck. It seems like some laps he looks like a hero. He's out here absolutely making it look easy, and then other laps he just starts to fall back a bit, and maybe just experimenting, trying different lines, trying to see what works, what doesn't. That's definitely something these drivers do, and it's good to gain info like that and figure out your machine and exactly what it can and cannot do. But regardless of all that, sometimes he's faster, sometimes he's slower, but he has stayed within the top 5 for the majority of this second stint here so far. So definitely a fast machine regardless. And another fast machine is Ben Mashburn in that number 24. Now he's fallen back a little bit to Andrew Himmelman, but he has a little bit of rear end damage, which I have to assume may be impacting his handling. Give him a few more pit stops to get that thing fixed up and get some of that damage beat out of the body, and I think he's a real contender. I mean, again, he worked his way up through the field, got up to the leader at one point before that last caution, and kind of a long run truck, I think. So I'm going to be curious to see what he can do as the night progresses. And this battle for fourth, technically I guess for third, is really intense right now as the number 11 trying to make a move. Christopher Darling down to the bottom of the number 26, JT Poole, and they're going to go side by side for fifth. Is he going to be able to complete the move? It's so hard, Peter. When you come out of turn 4, when you're on the bottom, it's so hard to keep the grip in that car. It wants to step out when you pinch that thing down. Contact to the number 50, Bill Edwards, big sideways. That was really close to being a moment, and JT Poole, with some amazing reaction time, was able to get off the throttle and let those guys sort it out without anything really coming from it. But now, that number 11 is going to try again. He put the bumper to him again coming out of the turn. He's at the quarter panel, and now There he goes, up into P4. Wow, that was close, Peter. You can see on the replay there just how intense that was. Very hard racing from the number 11. But we're at Dover, man, and that is a track. This is a track where you gotta race hard. You gotta push your truck to its limits, and you gotta take every opportunity when it comes. And the 11 is not letting up. Here we go. Too wide in front of him. He's gonna shove the 20 clear of the 24. That's gonna put Christopher Darling up into P3 with Jason Freeman in P2. But the 11, his hunt's not over. Back to the bottom. And the 20 is not even going to fight him for it. He's going to say, all right, I've seen what you're doing out here. You go around me. You go see if you can do something with the leader. I'm a chill back here, kind of what that said to me. So now side by side again, the 26 trying to get around the number 20 as he continues to fade back ever so slightly. Now, I'm curious, can Christopher Darling make up this deficit? It's 1.4 seconds at the line to the leader. But man, the way he's pushing this truck, I think he might have something for him.
Well, the thing is, Andre, is Chris Darling was actually on pit road about 14 laps ago. If we bring up the last time they were on the pit road right here, you can see that Chris Darling pitted on lap number 39 and lap number 51. Himmelman hasn't been on pit road since lap number 39, so quite a bit older tires for Andrew Himmelman, at least comparatively in the number of laps that we have run so far. But Himmelman here just has to get around the racetrack one more time, and he will win this stage and the 10 points that come along with winning this stage. So all things looking good right now for Andrew Himmelman. Just waiting to see the caution flag fly, which will happen this next time by. But that's the reason why, Andre, that Chris Darling was absolutely running and gunning, trying to gain as many spots as he can here before lap number 65, and the caution flag has finally come out. So Andrew Himmelman will win the stage and take all 10 points. Chris Darling will pick up 9 points for finishing in the stage in the second spot. So a really exciting end to the stage here under this little run that we have.
Absolutely, and exciting. And there, Soblex in the chat saying, Darling putting the old bump and run on him. Yeah, that was definitely a classic bump and run. And I love that kind of racing, man. It's hard racing, but nobody got wrecked. Nobody got turned. I think everybody involved there knew what each other's limits were. I don't think Darling gave any of these drivers anything that he didn't believe they could handle. And he was able to take those fresher tires, charge to the front, and grab himself some stage points. Unfortunately, just a little short of the stage win, but again, every point counts, especially in a season where everything's been topsy-turvy. We've had 6 unique winners, and those playoff spots are continuing to fill up, and the points are continually fluctuating every single week. So, gotta take what you can get.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Andrew Himmelman going to lead a whole gaggle of trucks down pit road, bringing Chris Darling with him. You see JT Poole there, you see Jeff Price, but Himmelman going to come down here right to the end of pit road. You see your pole sitter here tonight, Craig Setup Shop pole award winner Ben Izenga, going to go to the very last pit stall right there. And here comes the number 11 of Chris Darling out there on the racetrack. We did quickly see, it doesn't look like Himmelman's going to win that race off pit road, but we did get a flash, and he just got a flash right there of the number 17 machine, Tristan Maher. Maher will be picking up your Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award here in the stage break. So he will get himself back on the lead lap. He was battling for that lucky dog position with the number 5 machine of Ben Adams, but Adams here just coming up a little bit short here under this caution flag and picking up that lucky dog award. I'm sure we'll see Tristan down pit road here very shortly, because he will have to restart at the tail end of the longest line. That is the bad news when you get that lucky dog award. Doesn't really matter where you end up kind of as the field kind of cycles off pit road, you still have to serve that end of longest line penalty. And just like I predicted, he is on pit road right now. So you see a couple of the other trucks here, Andre, possibly trying to pick up a waiver round. You see Ben Adams, one of ththose drivers. Colin Ullery looks like the number 28 there, Jamar Dumas, one of the drivers who will be taking the waiver round here. Dumas is a couple of laps down. I think he's 5 laps, sorry, not 5, 2 laps down as of right now. So a couple of these trucks really in need of a couple of very quick caution flags to kind of get themselves back in the picture here tonight.
Absolutely. The wave around, it's a risk because you are foregoing a pit stop. You are staying on older tires, but it does get you back on the lead lap. So it's kind of a risk versus reward situation if you feel confident that you can stay on the lead lap and you can make the most of what your truck has left in it. And I think with the way that those last few cautions played out and how the pit sequence has kind of been shaken up a bit, some of these drivers might have tires that they think are fresh enough that, yeah, I could stay on the lead lap, and if we get another yellow flag, I can come down, pit road, get fresh tires, and then we'll be on an even playing field. So just going to have to see how it works out for him, but of course, everybody, I think, wants to be on the lead lap, and I think that's a risk that most of them are willing to take. So speaking of drivers on the lead lap, over that last stint, just an update on Mitchell Adams. He gained a handful of positions. He restarted that stint back in P15. He made it up to 11th for the end of the stage. And Ben Izenga, our pole sitter, he made it all the way up into 7th. So he is going to be restarting towards the front. And again, if the speed that he had early on is anything to go off of, he's going to be a part of this battle that we've seen continuing to happen over and over and over between Himmelman, Darling, Bill Edwards, Freeman. These guys have been just duking it out all race long, and now Ben Izenga is back right there with him. So this is going to be, I think, one of the more entertaining restarts we've seen.
Yeah, and of course, tonight is the Total Nonstop Racing 200 presented by Punjabi Salami. That man right there was the person who got me into sim racing all the way back around 2006. Garrett Gleason, the owner of Total Nonstop Racing himself, here in tonight's field. That number 7 going to be back on the lead lap in the 18th spot, taking that wave around right there. Pace car heads down pit road. We're about to go back green on lap number 70, 69 laps in the book, and the green flag going to wave, and Andrew Himmelman again early on the loud pedal, and he's going to jump out to an early lead here on this restart. And look at JT Poole. He followed that number 8 machine to the front. He's now up to 2nd. Chris Darling now back to 3rd. Bill Edwards 4th. Jason Freeman in 5th.
So very similar top 5 to what we've seen. I'm a little surprised that Darling gave up a position on that restart, but starting in that high line, sometimes not exactly ideal. Like you said, JT Poole, he saw the leader go really early like he's been doing on these last couple of restarts, and he was able to take advantage of that. He got on the throttle real quick, had no wheel spin. It was a great restart by Poole, and that put him up into P2. And Himmelman, this is probably the quickest I've seen him drive away from the field. He's going to be up to about a 0.6 second gap, if not more, by the time they cross the line this time. So that 8 truck really starting to be on rails, and that short run speed that he's got, whatever he's doing with his driving style, the lines he's taking, it is really working out on these restarts as Darling continues to kind of match the pace of the 26. So those two running very similar lap times, and a battle behind them as Ben Izenga has breached the top 5 for the first time since the very first pit sequence when he was trapped a lap down. And now he's going to see what he can do with that number 50, Bill Edwards. He got to the inside there a moment ago, didn't quite have the run, thought better of it, backed out. Now he's going to stay single file behind them, although Edwards now trying to make a move on the number 11. So Christopher Darling is going to drop back a position or 2 here as they stay side by side out of the corner. Bill Edwards clear of the 11. He's going to go to the high line, block up there, dive back down low, doing everything he can to play a little bit of defense, but ultimately Christopher Darling going to drop back again to Ben Izenga. And these guys are not done battling as Izenga in that 07 truck, he's going to go right down to that apron, make another pass, and that's going to be P4 secure for Izenga.
Yeah, actually it's P3 for Ben Izenga as he was able to get around Edwards and Darling there in pretty much a single lap. Really impressive. And now Edwards under fire from Chris Darling. We saw the 11 and the 50 have a little bit of a moment a little while ago where the 11 pushed the number 50 out of the way, but for right now it is the number 50 once again in front of the 11 of Darling. And Izenga's really run down JT Poole here, so we really have to start looking at this battle for second. Looks like JT says, you know what, Ben, you're faster. I'm just going to roll up on the high side of the racetrack, let you on by, as we have now 6 trucks fighting for the second position from Izenga all the way back to Travis White in the number 23 machine. Back there just at the top of your screen, almost making contact with the outside wall in the number 23 machine.
Yeah, this is a crazy battle we got going. I mean, all the way back to 5th. These guys are just matching each other's pace, just waiting for each other to slip up, and just kind of handing these positions off back and forth. As now Bill Edwards is going to try to make a move on the number 26. JT Poole dropping back 2 positions in a single turn, it looks like. Possibly 3 by the time they get to turn 1 here, as the number 20 is going to dive low, and he's still trapped on the high side. So an unfortunate series of corners. Here's the 20 car, slides up, has to let off the throttle. The front end just gave way. He tried to make it stick, and it did not. So a great recovery by that number 20, and quick thinking to get off that throttle and get that thing gathered up. But he's going to fall back to Travis White. That's a driver we haven't talked too much about, but he has made his way up into P6. And if he continues at this rate with the lap times he's running, he's going to be up there with JT Poole and the rest of this crew.
Yeah, definitely some resurgence amongst some of these drivers here tonight up towards the front of the field. Meanwhile, it is still Andrew Himmelman leading as big wiggle out the back of the number 49 of Mitchell Adams, and that allows the number 20 Freeman to get back up underneath that MaxGrafix.co 49-year reigning series champion, back-to-back series champion in the number 49 machine of Mitchell Adams, but Adams going to hold on to that spot, at least for now. Looking up a little bit, here is your third place driver, Bill Edwards, and caution flag is waving. Saw that the flag man was frantically waving that yellow flag, and was trying to figure out what this caution flag was for. Hearing it might be, Colin Ullery, the 62, got out of the groove there a little bit. Oh, man, Jamar Dumas goes up the racetrack, and Garrett Gleason nowhere to go in the number 7 machine. Nick Bradley in the 40 also involved in the move. Man, even Matt Vanderkoy back there having a little bit of a moment. Let's see if we can go on board here with the number 62 machine. Let's slow this down. Let's speed it up. Now we'll slow it down, because the 99 of Philip Scott got into the back of Colin Ullery. And the number 28 machine, he was checking up here. And again, we saw this a little bit earlier, Andre. Doug Neal probably couldn't quite see through the 28 of Dumas, gets into the back of him, gets him loose. And unfortunately, a couple of the other trucks there also involved.
Yeah, that's the thing about Dover, man. Something happens in front of you, and it's really hard to even see what's happening, especially in the corner. Because these corners are so sharp, the angle that they're at, you really can't see that far ahead of you. Even if you're running triple monitors or something like that, the visibility is really low. And then you combine that with the fact that the track is so narrow, and even if you do see something happening in front of you, generally there's not too many places to actually put yourself where you're not going to be involved. So we see so many times at this track, the accordion effect happens where just something happens at the front, everybody behind, they're not doing anything wrong. They're just kind of falling victim to the way that this track races. So you really got to be absolutely perfect at a track like Dover. Otherwise, that is what happens. And then the number 7, I believe it is, really came in there and pile drove somebody. Again, I think he was coming through the corner. He couldn't see anything happening in front of him. That was a hard hit, though. That may be his day done. As we take a look at one more replay here, and coming through the corner, everything happening in front, trying to figure out, where can I go? Can I go low? Can I go high? Well, you can go low. Barely. You can go low, but it did indeed work. So the number 2 truck, piloted by Justin White, he's going to make a fantastic wreck avoidance right there. Not too many times at Dover do you see 3 or 4 cars wrecking in front of you, and you manage to come out unscathed.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. Now, folks, we did have some pit stops under this caution flag, and we have a new race leader. Well, I say a new race leader. It's Ben Izenga's gotten his way back up to the front here, Andre. I'm just wondering, maybe if he should have done that Buttkicker challenge, because he has raced himself from 2 laps down now to being back on the lead lap, and also leader of the race. Bill Edwards also able to get around Andrew Himmelman. Himmelman there just did not have a good pit stop time. You can see those pit stop times there on the right-hand side. Himmelman, a 15-second pit stop. You compare that to Bill Edwards, who had a 14.5 second. Izenga had a 0.7. And sometimes those 0.3 of a second, Andre, they make all the difference.
They absolutely do, and I think you're right. I think Izinga should have taken that butt kicker challenge, but hindsight is 2020, and I think the idea of not taking that challenge is I don't want to drive through the field at all. Hopefully, ideally, I'm going to get in this truck, I'm going to run 200 laps, and I'm going to lead every dang one of them. Unfortunately, things did not play that way, and he ended up towards the back of the pack, and he did have to race his way up anyways. He just hadn't taken the butt kicker challenge, so the cash prize still up in the air, and I think maybe that kind of brings to mind for some of these guys that, hey, even at a track like Dover where you think you can't pass, it's going to be hard to race your way up through the field. If the truck's good enough, if you're confident enough in your speed and in the way that it handles, maybe take the challenge anyway, even if it's a little intimidating. Maybe pretty soon we're going to see some drivers go for that challenge.
Big shout out to one of the series sponsors, BetAngles, betangles.com on the number 24 machine, who just so happens while the sponsor's getting spotlighted, disappears from the track there just a little bit. We're getting set to go back to green flag because the BetAngles green flag about to fly up here at the front of the field once again. Of course, great run last week at the Roval for Ben Mashburn. We'll see if he can back that up here tonight, but 07 Ben Izinga just lightning up at the front of the field, just pulling away. And Andre already up to about a half-second lead as Matt Van Der Kooi in the number 60 machine down there on the inside of the racetrack. Something must be going wrong with the number 60 F-150 as he's very much off the pace. We're looking a little bit further back here. This is the battle around the kind of the third position on back, as now Mitchell Adams in the 49 has worked his way up to the 6th position. Another driver who's really surging his way through the field.
After everything has finally sorted itself out, we're seeing a lot of these early players in the race that were really dominating early on, finally working their way back towards the front. Mitchell Adams, as you mentioned, up into P6. We've got Izinga back in the lead. Whoa, big moment. Wow, that was really close. I believe that was the number 14, Jeff Price, who got a little bit squirrely coming out of turn 2. Not sure if he had any help there as we go on board. No, he did not have any help. It was just a matter of a little bit too much throttle. And again, you mentioned how this track's a little bit like a roller coaster, Peter, and it is, man. When you come up out of that corner and you crest that sort of hill right there, your truck becomes weightless. The force feedback in your steering wheel just floats. You have no resistance in the wheel. And for a brief moment, it kind of feels like you're up in the air. So if you're at a bad angle, if your car is not 100% angled properly prior to exiting the corner, sometimes that's what happens. You just get a little bit sideways, and if you're lucky or really skilled, you can make a recovery like the number 14. But sometimes, man, it don't play out quite that easy.
Yeah, sometimes you luck out. The truck kind of has a mind of its own, and it does what it wants to do if you get a little bit loose. But then sometimes, if you get behind just a fraction of a second on your steering, it is night done for you. We're closing in on the halfway mark here in the Total Nonstop Racing 200, presented by Punjabi Salami here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, folks. We really appreciate you joining us here on the channel for the flag-to-flag coverage here tonight. Every week, right here, 9 o'clock Eastern on 3Wide TV, right here on YouTube. And make sure to like the video, subscribe, and of course share it with all of your friends on Facebook and all other social media. We love having different faces in the chat and giving people shout outs. Garrett Gleason getting not the type of shout out that you like to see. Garrett saying that the number 7 has pulled it to the garage here tonight, and that is a tough scene for one of the drivers who has been out there. And of course it is the Total Nonstop Racing 200, so I'm sure Garrett wanted to have a good showing in the number 7 machine here, but it doesn't look like that is at all going to happen, as his night is done before the halfway mark. Stay Tuned Sports saying, yes, seems like a good series. Speaking of the Tampa Bay Lightning, we got the Stanley Cup Playoffs happening right now. Of course, Stay Tuned Sports, the sponsor of the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, always talking about sports on their podcast, hence the name. Big shout out to them, talking about it in the chat here, engaging some of the fans. Tana Himmelman still in the chat, William Kerwin. Folks, really do appreciate you joining us here. We want to hear how your week has been. What are your plans for this long 3-day Memorial Day weekend? I know my plan on Sunday is the same plan I have every single Memorial Day. It is to watch the Indianapolis 500 in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That race course will be on the NBC Sports. Make sure you check out the Indy 500, as I'm sure a lot of the people watching here on 3Y TV end up watching that race year after year. Definitely going to be a doozy of one this season. I heard that even the people located in Indianapolis will be able to watch that race. That's kind of a rarity. You have to sell out the Indianapolis 500 for the people in the Indianapolis market to actually be able to watch the race on the TV, but they have done so this year. As a little bit further back, Jason Freeman right behind Travis White. They're starting to battle one another. This is the battle for the 7th position right now, the best battle inside the top 10, but we do have a couple of battles inside the top 10, and somehow, some way, we do have a new race leader, because last I looked, it was Ben Izenga who was the race leader, but now Andrew Himmelman back up to the front, Andre.
Yeah, I was going to point out, I kind of missed it too. We were really focused on some of this really great mid-pack action that we've been seeing all night long, and we were kind of in a trance looking at that, and all this while, the number 8 truck somehow made a move on Izenga, and not only did he get around him, but he started to pull away a little bit, as we do have, I believe, a replay of the overtake. So here's the moment that got the number 8 the lead, putting the bumper to the leader in the middle of the corner. He's going to get down to the quarter panel and into turn 1. That is going to be all she wrote. The high line, not exactly ideal here at Dover. So if you get forced up there, generally not going to be able to play too much defense, as you get a little bump right there. You can see as we ride on board with the number 8 truck and going into the corner. Again, he's going to get that position secure. So it was a masterful move. Now, see if he can hold it. I mentioned before that I think the number 8 is a little bit better on the short run, but something that we've talked about before in other races and broadcast, Peter, is that sometimes, especially in a league where everybody is running the same setup, the drivers tend to adapt over time. They learn that, okay, if I do this, then I'm going to burn out my tires, and I'm going to be really fast on the short run. But as I was talking about that, I'm going to get cut off because the yellow flag has flown. And I believe it involves the 24 of Ben Mashburn. Not entirely sure, so here they were going into the corner. And I can't tell who went where. It looks like maybe the 43 was coming down and the 24 was going up, just going for the same real estate there.
Yeah, we're going to have to, I think, go up to the blimp cam. Watch the number 24 machine down there on the inside of the racetrack here, Andre. I want to say that maybe Ben Mashburn might have clipped the apron just a little bit going through the corner right there, and then washes up the racetrack into the side of Evan Burke. And unfortunately, Evan Burke in the number 43 machine, we'll get a kind of a look at this one in that full speed. Watch the number 24. He goes down right there, clips the apron, comes up the racetrack. Although you're right, the 43, I think, was coming down the racetrack, but Evan Burke right there, and unfortunately absolutely nowhere for Zach Howell to go. Zach Howell, definitely a torn up racetrack. Let's go on board here with Zach Howell. You can see Burke sliding down the racetrack, and just nowhere for that truck to go.
And unfortunately, I mean, there was nothing the 43 could have done different. He had his brakes 100% applied. You could see the tire smoke. The tires were not spinning. That was just a matter of this track not having any grip. He locked up the tires, slid down the track, and it was just a situation where nobody really could have done anything different, but unfortunately they came together, and a lot of damage resulting from that. And I would assume that is both of their nights over, because you take a hit like that to either driver, and it's generally not looking too good for them. So rough situation for sure. A little bit of netcode too there, Peter. On that replay, I noticed the 24 hadn't even really hit the 43 when the 43 reacted to it and kind of got bounced up the track a little bit. So just really close, hard racing, and sometimes, when you're dealing with a matter of inches, sometimes it just comes down to it, and that's what happens.
Now we're getting word that the number 07 machine right there, speeding too fast on pit road for Ben Izenga. So here we go again. He's going to have to do the butt kicker challenge all over again in that 07 machine, and that is definitely not good for Ben Izenga. He's going to fall all the way back to the 16th position here, Andre, but it's going to be fun to see the Canadian driver charge his way back up through the field, that's for sure.
It'll be fun to watch, but man, you got to imagine Izenga's getting a little frustrated. This will be the second time that he's had to drive his way up through the field, and it's always frustrating when it's a speeding penalty because there's not really anybody to blame but yourself. You got to think, yeah, I should have been more careful, or I could have done this, or I could have done that. But again, iRacing with the way that it calculates its speeding and everything, it's very easy to just get on a little bit too quick and have that happen. So he's got the speed. I would say this is a setback, but that's all it is. It's a setback, and he's going to be able to overcome that because that 07 truck has been on rails all night long. Definitely one of the fastest trucks in the field, at least on the long runs, as we do have a bit of a replay. We're going to try and look at, I believe, the pit sequence, perhaps.
I think we're just trying to do a little bit of sleuthing here on 3 Wide TV, trying to figure out who is the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award, because want to give credit to Brookstone Animal Hospital for giving out the Lucky Dog Award, and it does appear it is the number 28 machine of Jamar Dumas, who will still be a couple of laps down in his number 28 Pittsburgh Penguins machine as he works his way back out onto the racing surface. Pretty heavily damaged race truck, but caution flag is about to disappear here. We are now in the second half of the Total Nonstop Racing 200 here, presented by Punjabi Salami and the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. We thank you for joining us. Garrett Gleason in the chat saying Peter Short is my idol. Smart, good-looking, well-spoken, talented. I could go on and on, but people would question my sexuality. Garrett, I couldn't have said it better myself. Jason Gracias saying Peter Short. 2 separate messages there. Jason, I know you're not in the car anymore after being involved in an early accident. I definitely been a tough one for the number 1 machine. Maybe that's the question of what they were doing this weekend. I hope not, but the green flag is waving back in the air here at Dover International Speedway, and it is Andrew Himmelman in the number 8 machine. Not as good of a restart as we have seen, but still able to clear the number 26 machine as they get off into turn number 1 now, halfway down the backstretch, and they're looking really racy back behind him.
And I think getting clear is pretty much all he needed on that restart because he has such great short run speed that you give him a few laps here, he is going to pull away from the field like we've seen him do time and time again. But that's being boxed in if I've ever seen it there, Peter. That number 20 car is kind of sandwiched in and not having an easy time in the slightest as he's going to finally fall back there. But man, that had to be very nerve-wracking as the number 11 in front of him maybe trying to make a move on Mitchell Adams here. This battle between Christopher Darling and Mitchell Adams not giving way. Nearly identical to paint schemes on these 2 trucks. The blue number on top being Christopher Darling. And 11 as he gets big loose and a huge correction. They're going to be 3 wide into turns 3 and 4. The number 20 lifting off the throttle rather than forcing that 3 wide situation. That was insanely close and quick thinking by that number 20 to take a look at his surroundings, let off the throttle a little bit, and allow everybody to sort that out. That's the 3rd time that the number 20 has had to react to a situation around him, and he's been able to kind of make himself clear of the situation. That's been some great defensive driving all night long by that 20, and I think it's paying off. There's a reason that he is up here in the top 10 so consistently, and it's because he is able to do things like that, where he can just keep himself out of trouble and let other people make the bobbles.
Yeah, but meanwhile, up at the front of the field, look at JT Poole in the number 26 machine doing battle for the race lead, going around Andrew Himmelman on the outside. We haven't seen that here tonight, Andre.
Yeah, we have not seen too many outside overtakes, but man, he made it happen. It was a great move, so for the first time all night long, JT Poole will lead this event. Not going to drive away with it necessarily. Andrew Himmelman in the number 8 doing his best to make sure that he is staying on the bumper, matching his tire tracks line for line. trying to reclaim that top spot. But again, I think that number 8 really excels in the short run. Not sure about the 26. Seems like he's been relatively consistent all around as the caution flies again. Not sure what this one is for. Perhaps, as I see somebody coming down pit road, I think that is the... yeah, that's Dumas. He is in pit road with a lot of damage to that machine. So 17 was involved in that. Okay, I'm looking at my own replay here, but yeah, the number 17 spiraling down the straightaway, and of course picking up some damage with that hit. Bringing out our caution. We're going to take a look at another replay here. So here's the 17 going into the corner as we go onto our roll cage camera. Right behind the number 07, Izenga just got a little bit loose in that inside wall. Kind of gripped the left side of that car and spun him around. Number 28 was an unrelated situation. Maybe just some too much damage to that car, but yeah, that was a rough situation for the 17 for sure.
Yeah, it seemed like two unrelated situations there. You kind of said it best. You had the 28 of Dumas there losing a motor on the backstretch, and on the front stretch you had Tristan Mayer getting just a little bit behind on the steering, and unfortunately the number 17 hard into the inside wall. You just really cannot have that happen here at this racetrack. If you get behind the steering here at Dover International Speedway, you're going to end up in the wall 9 times out of 10. We saw Jimmy Johnson once upon a time do it, spin down the front stretch here, not hit anything, but that's a rarity here, and unfortunately for Tristan Maher, ended up hitting the wall pretty significantly. JT Poole going to win the race off pit road. Andrew Himmelman coming out second as you see the rest of the cars funnel off pit road. But actually hearing that Bill Edwards, the number 50, the S2R driver, has stayed out. So that is a very interesting call by him to stay out there on the racetrack, and he's pretty much the only driver up towards the front of the field here, Andre, who did not come down pit road in that machine. I don't know why that graphic is not exactly right. Pit stop lap. Here we go. Well, that graphic isn't exactly right either. I have no idea why that graphic is kind of stuck, but the graphic is stuck. Maybe it's just because of you can kind of barely make it out, but there is a tiny itty bitty sliver for JT Poole, Andrew Himmelman, the Mitchell Adams, as well as the number 5 of Jeff Price. I promise you folks, they did just come down pit road last time by. I think they've just made so many pit stops that it isn't going to show until maybe just a little bit. I probably have to make that graphic 10 times bigger to figure out when everyone came down pit road here tonight. But the number 50, he is on older tires. Everyone behind him on fresher tires. We'll have to see just how far Bill Edwards falls here when we go back green, because tire wear is important here at Dover.
It is important, but I will say I've been a little bit surprised earlier on in the race when we saw that situation at the end of the stage towards lap 65 where Mitchell Adams in that 49 machine, he had a lot fresher tires than the leader by something to the tune of 15 laps or so. And still, his lap times were only about a tenth or two faster per lap. So it takes a while, I think, for this tire wear to set. And like pole winner Izenga said, this setup wears really gracefully. It uses time very slowly. It handles very well on older tires. So maybe taking that into account, the 50 just made a bit of a calculated risk. He said, all right, tire wear, it's going to slow me down. It's going to be a problem, but it might be a manageable problem. So we're going to have to wait and see as the lights are off on the pace car. And the whole field is going to make their way around one more time. And then we're going to finally figure out what can these old tires do, Peter.
Yeah, and if you're Bill Edwards, you really have to watch out for wheel spin here on this restart. We've seen possibly it affect a couple of drivers, but with Bill having older tires, he's going to be even more susceptible to wheel spin than what we have seen out of some of these trucks tonight. So keep our eyes for that here in the next couple seconds or so once that green flag finally does drop. We've seen a lot of these drivers kind of hit the loud pedal very early to kind of catch the other drivers off guard, if you will, here. But Edwards waiting. There goes Edwards on the loud pedal. Great job getting that truck hooked up. We might have saw a little bit of a wiggle, but it wasn't a bad one. He's going to lead us off into turn number 1, and now the question is going to be asked, how long can those slightly older tires hold on? JT Poole already all over the back bumper of the S2R number 50 machine as they come out of the corner. Meanwhile, back behind him, the right side of the screen, they go side by side back there, but Poole diving to the inside and trying to take the race lead back here on lap number 116.
That number 50 truck, Bill Edwards, did everything right on that start. It was a fantastic jump, especially when you consider how worn those tires are. But unfortunately, as we are now up to race pace, you can see where that lack of grip is really starting to hinder him, as the number 8 has made his way around as well. That's going to drop Bill Edwards back to 3rd. But the good news for Bill is he's got a little bit of breathing room, because it is almost an entire half a second to the next car back, which is Mitchell Adams in that number 49. And Adams is kind of involved in a battle of his own. He's got Jeff Price in the number 14 right behind him on the bumper, as well as Travis White in that number 23. And if these guys continue to battle, then I think Bill Edwards is going to have a fairly solid chance of staying up in P3, at least for the time being. And even so, I mean, he's not dropping back too fast from the number 8. It seems like he is managing these tires really well.
Yeah, so just getting a look of some of the racing a little bit further back. Like you mentioned, Bill Edwards not really falling off all too much, managing those tires really well in the number 50, although it seemed like he got yawed out just a little bit there. But just doesn't seem like he's going to be able to have anything for your race leaders just yet. We'll see how good he can save those tires here as we continue to go green. Hopefully we can get a little bit of a green flag run in. Here's one driver who's worked his way back onto the lead lap and now back up inside the top 10. That is Ben Adams. Started this race in the 6th position in that Memorial Day paint scheme right there. And he is running right behind tonight's pole sitter, brought to you by Craig Setup Shop. Ben Izenga right there in that white 07. Back behind them, that's the 62 of Colin Ullery. He's had his ups and downs here tonight. He's right in front of Doug Neal in the Simbach Chevrolet. We know he's had his ups and downs here tonight. He was involved in an incident at one point. In fact, I think, if I remember correctly, the 77 might have gotten into the 62. He got into someone at some point. I think maybe it was Ullery got loose, and then the 77 got into someone. I don't know. There's been a couple of caution flags here tonight. But good job by Doug Neal to rebound. He is running in 12th, and right now he is the biggest mover of the race, picking up 16 spots from the 28th position where he started the race.
That's why it's important to stay out on this track, even if the truck's a little bit wounded, even if you've been in a couple incidents. If that truck still has 4 tires and an engine that work, if you can stay out on track, you know some other drivers are going to have some misfortune. Something's going to happen, and you're going to be able to attempt at least a bit of a comeback. And so, like you said, a fantastic job by the 77 Doug Neal to kind of get through that adversity that he went through, now running P12, and he's running some pretty solid laps. He's actually a little bit quicker than some of the cars ahead of him, so give him some time. Maybe he closes that gap. But right now on your screen, what you're focusing on there, that is the number 26, JT Poole, who is starting to fall back from the, he's leading the race. I apologize. And Andrew Himmelman falling back from him. Himmelman leading a lot of the, I'd say, mid portion of this race so far. But ultimately, it seems like every time he gets out front and he finds himself leading the race, something has happened, a caution flag or something similar. So he's kind of been facing a lot of adversity himself, trying to keep the lead. And regardless, he's been running top 3 all night long. Bill Edwards still running P3. He's managed to hold on to the podium with those older tires, but now we got a battle for 3rd, as it's going to be Mitchell Adams on the bottom at his door and clear as they reach the exit of turn 4. So that's going to put 50 down, 1 more position, and Mitchell Adams 1 position closer to the front. He's got a big deficit to make up. He is 2.3 seconds behind the leader and 2 seconds behind Himmelman. But if we can stay green for a while here, who knows? We know that Mitchell Adams has a lot of long run speed, so could have a bit of a battle brewing there. has a little bit further back in the pack on your screen right now. That is the battle from, I believe, fourth on backwards. You got Bill Edwards, Travis White, Christopher Darling, Jeff Price, all of these guys pretty much bumper to bumper. A little bit of contact through turns 1 and 2. We've seen that a few times tonight. Now it looks like the number 11, Christopher Darling, who again made that late rally in stage 1 to get all the way up to P2. He's been struggling ever since then to get back up inside the podium, but still a fast truck. And right now, as they enter the corner, he is going to stay on the bumper of the car head. Very aggressive driving style tonight, but it has paid off leaps and bounds as he has been running top 10 consistently. Right there, that's the 07. He has finally worked his way back towards this lead pack after having to go to the back, serving a speeding penalty. So this will be the second time that the pole sitter, Zenga, has made his way all the way through the field towards the front. He's got a few more cars to make it through, though. So we're going to keep an eye on him, and have a separate pack forming a little bit behind them, spearheaded by that number 5 truck. Of course, Ben Adams in that patriotic number 5. He is ahead of Colin Ulrey, who you mentioned earlier there, Peter, and Jeff Price, who fell back a ways. But these two packs are kind of merging here. Looks like the number 5 actually caught up to Bill Edwards, and now it is one massive free-for-all for P7.
Yeah, it's a massive free-for-all right now for the 4th position as Chris Darling and Travis White battle for that spot. But here comes Ben Izenga now closing to the back bumper of the number 23 machine. Now Ben Adams battling with Edwards. Remember, Edwards is on the older tires. He's going to slide all the way back to the 10th spot. He loses 8th to Adams, 9th to Jeff Price. And now Adams on those slightly older tires has almost fallen outside of the top 10. Colin Ullery right back behind him was on pit lane now about over 20 laps ago now, believe it or not, as we're in this 20 lap or so green flag run. But wow, what a great battle from really Christopher Darling, Travis White on back here. It's been a lot of fun watching them. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, look at this, folks. Andrew Himmelman has all but caught the number 26 machine of JT Poole, and looking for the race lead coming down the backstretch. Here comes Himmelman. He's been lightning quick here tonight in that SimShot Chevrolet. He won yesterday in the Coca-Cola 600 in the iRacing Official Series, and he wants to win here tonight in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, trying to battle with JT Poole for the race lead. Give it to Himmelman.
And he is going to take it, but not without challenge. Looks like the 26 is going to fight back with a crossover move back to the bottom quarter panel, and he is going to hook that apron, run the low line through 3 and 4. Can he get clear? No. Some defense from the 8 truck on the outside. They're going to stay door to door going into turn 1 and 2. What can the 8 do on that high line? Can he play the defense again? Can he get down to that quarter panel? Maybe side draft him right there. That was almost contact, and they're going to stay side by side. This is a battle. I can't believe the number 8 is able to hold that outside line as well as he can. He's, of course, pinching the 26 down as low as he can, and that helps, but he's going to get back around him. So even though the 26 had an opportunity on the low line, some masterful defense is going to keep the 8 car out front, and now Mitchell Adams is going to get around the number 26 of JT Poole. So Mitchell Adams now not far away from finding himself back up front.
Yeah, Mitchell Adams, fantastic move to get himself up into second. Can you believe that number 49 truck? He started here tonight in the 11th position, and he's just been yo-yoing up inside the top 10, now with a shot to get up to the front. We've mentioned it multiple times here tonight. He is the back-to-back reigning series champion here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Comes into tonight as the points leader as JT Poole there might have just clipped the outside wall. You see that number 26 machine lose some ground on your front two. Poole here, Andre, might be struggling here in the back half of this run. Chris Darling now solidly in 4th, Izenga in 5th, Travis White now under fire from the number 5 of Adams as Adams continues his resurgence. He was a couple of laps down earlier in the race, and he finds himself now in the 6th spot. Here comes Jeff Price. He takes the 7th position away from Travis White, and Jason Freeman now trying to take the spot away from Travis White. White here in a little bit of a free fall.
Yeah, he is definitely falling back through the field, and of course we are at a point in the run where tire wear is going to start to be noticeable. The truck's going to handle a little bit differently, and depending on how you've been driving, you might barely be noticing it, or you might feel like you're driving a completely different truck than you were earlier. And I think in the case of the number 26, I think JT Poole was just kind of really pushing that truck, trying to drive away from the field and separate himself from the pack as much as he could. Maybe that burnt his tires up, because it seemed like once the number 8 got to him, once the 49 got to him, they were able to just make short work of him, get around him. He tried to fight back on the bottom, but he couldn't even really hold the bottom, and that's what tells me his tires are getting pretty worn, Peter, because the more worn they are, the harder it is to run that low line, and he definitely seemed like he had to let off the throttle quite a bit, slow the truck down to get it where it was comfortable down there. So the battle right now for the lead between Mitchell Adams and Andrew Himmelman, these two drivers turning near identical lap times, 24.596 for Mitchell Adams, and in front of him, 24.582, so about 100th of a second quicker for the number 8. And in that corner, the 49 closed the gap up a little bit more. So two very similar, I would say, driving styles, running very similar lap times. These guys are going to be battling it out for some time to come. And as they battle, as we have a lot of action all over the track, how about we put you right in the middle of the action? Let you take in the sights and sounds with a Shano FX Overdrive.
All right, folks, big shout out to our channel sponsor, Shano FX, for bringing us Overdrive here tonight. It's a little bit of a crank it up, if you will. We're watching Tristan Maher right here battle with Ben Adams. Adams having a big slide coming out of turn number 4. That's going to open the door up for Bill Edwards. Edwards trying to climb his way back up. This is a battle for 7th right here, and the number 70 Wine Whiskey Review machine will get a big slide out back of Jason Freeman as well. And the number 20 machine, just that truck all up out of shape. He keeps it going in the right direction, however. You're not missing anything up at the front of the field as the battle for the race lead has calmed down just a little bit. Andrew Himmelman in the Sim Shots number 8 machine right there, leading the number 49 of Mitchell Adams by about half a second. That race lead has been growing In fact, last time by, it grew just about a tenth and a half or so. So Andrew Himmelman here in the late stages of this run. Andre starting to pull away, just trying to see how many laps it has been since these trucks were last on pit road, because we do know that they're going to get to the point here, as it's been 40 laps since your top 5 were last on pit road. They're starting to get into that window where, you know, they've gone 40 laps. Another 40 laps will almost get them to the end of the race, but won't quite. These drivers are probably going to be pretty close on fuel at the end of this race.
It's definitely going to be close, and that's going to be something they have to be mindful as we wind down this event. Of course, less than 50 laps to go. So, again, it's going to be something that maybe these drivers have to conserve a little bit. Maybe they don't even bother with that. They just go out there, they push the truck, and they go ahead and take their pit stop and do what they got to do. But always different philosophies, different ideas as to how you approach it. As we have a truck entering pit road right here, that is N. Adams and the number 5 machine. So he's going to kind of kick off what should be the final pit sequence as he makes his way down pit road. A nice smooth entry and a little bit of right front damage to that truck, but of course not seeming to hold him back much as we go back to focusing on... oh, there we go. Some more trucks. There's Mitchell Adams coming down pit road. So the pit sequence really starting to take off a little bit sooner than I expected.
Yeah, definitely. A couple of these drivers coming down pit road at this point. You know, I was actually thinking about this. Bill Edwards in the number 50 machine, he's actually come down pit road as well. As here comes your race leader, Andrew Himmelman, in the number 8 Sim Shots machine. He's coming down pit road. I think that Bill Edwards made it about 50 laps on his fuel/tire set. So if that's any indication, Andre, I think these trucks will be good to go to the end of the race. JT Poole is currently your race leader, as he is yet to pit in his number 26 machine. He's going to stay out and go another lap. Jeff Price in the number 14, he's running in second right now. Chris Darling in third. Then back behind them, Doug Milliner in the number 6 is running in fourth. And then behind him, Jason Freeman rounding out your top 5. Our 6th place truck right now is Doug Neal. And Mr. Cameraman, absolutely perfect. Right on that number 77 machine. You could not pan any faster than that. Doug Neal coming down to his pit box right now. JT Poole, however, continuing to stay out. Just how long will the number 26 machine stay out? And Andre, is this a good gamble for the number 26 machine? We've seen he's had a lot of pace up at the front of the field, but he's kind of not had the pace recently that the 49 or the number 8 have. He's out there right now just hoping for a caution flag.
Well, and the cautions have been kind of inconsistent. It seems like 1 minute we get this long green flag run, and then another minute we're getting a handful of cautions consecutively. So it's kind of hard to predict. It's hard to say one way or the other whether or not this is going to go green to the end, but definitely seems like a move. Whoa, okay, no. 26 truck came on the radio. He said, I'm going to pit. So he was going to come down pit road. I think he might have missed pit road, judging by the radio communications, and had to come back around. I'm not entirely sure. But he did block up the tires as he goes into the pits right there. So I guess maybe not really taking that gamble there, Peter.
Yeah, at least either not taking the gamble or he absolutely had to come down pit road because he was going to run out of fuel. Here's the number 14, Jeff Price, who inherits the race lead for right now, but looks like he is slowing down in the number 14 truck, and indeed he is coming to pit road. That will give the race lead to Chris Darling, who's locked in a scuffle with the number 6 F-150 of Doug Milliner. And I think with these two trucks that are left out there, Andre, I think these two will kind of cycle us through when they finally do come down pit road. As you see the number 23 machine there, Travis White, on the fresher tires saying, beep, beep, I'm coming through on the fresh rubber. And here comes Chris Darling in the number 11 and the number 6 of Doug Milliner. So that will basically cycle us through this pit cycle. I know everyone here on 3Y TV been watching the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series for quite some time. Know that I like to hone in on Chris Darling because last season, every time we watched Chris Darling get into his pit box, he would always blow through his pit box. He's been doing a spectacular job this season, and right there, on the money. Good job, Chris. If we had the kazoo, we would give it to you, but we don't have the kazoo here tonight. Meanwhile, while that's all been going on, Mitchell Adams in the 49 machine, he pitted 1 lap earlier than Andrew Himmelman and was able to get around the number 8 machine. But Himmelman has been closing in here, Andre, and it might just be a matter of time for Andrew Himmelman to get back out to the front, because as things have cycled through, they have cycled back to first and second here up at the front of the field. Well, we'll just kind of stick with you here. The 49 of Mitchell Adams trying to hold off the fresher tires of Andrew Himmelman. We look out back of the number 49 machine. They have a pretty decent lead on third place, who is Ben Izenga in the white number 07, who actually has kind of closed in on the front couple of drivers. He was your pole sitter here tonight, and he isn't, I wouldn't exactly say he's within striking distance here, Andre, but Ben Izenga did a fantastic job getting on pit road, and that 07 machine can now see your front two.
Yeah, I mean, getting in there early definitely helped him out. I think it's going to be one of those situations where he's going to pay for it later when the tires are worn, but right now that truck's probably feeling pretty good, and he was able to close in quite a bit on the leaders. And of course, if we were to get a yellow flag, if something were to happen like that, then he'd be even better off, of course, restarting right there on row 2. But through this pit sequence, everything really shaking out to be fairly close. I mean, our 2 leaders, Himmelman and Adams, just within a tenth or so of each other. And of course, Izenga not far behind, as the number 6 is a lap down. But on fresher tires, he just got around Izenga. He's working on unlapping himself on those slightly fresher tires. But right there, that is the battle for the lead. That is Mitchell Adams out front. Number 8 truck of Andrew Himmelman right there in P2. So very similar tire wear. These guys are going to be pretty much on level footing for the rest of this race. And the only thing that I think is going to shake things up here, Peter, is they're getting into some lap traffic, and it's starting to get pretty heavy. I mean, looking ahead of them, they've got Jason Freeman, Christopher Darling, who is on fresh tires and matching their pace, so maybe not going to come into play as quickly. But they are going to catch up to some of these guys relatively quickly, and that is going to make some of the difference here, because Dover's a track where even if you have the best back markers in the world, the best drivers in the world that are going a lap down and they're trying to be as courteous as they can, it's just the nature of Dover that overtaking is difficult. And finding your way around lap traffic, depending on where you catch them on the track, not always the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, definitely. This racetrack, you mentioned it at the top of the show, can be difficult to pass at. It's definitely a racetrack that, because you tend to make a lot of mistakes here, even if you're looking nice and smooth, it is a pretty tough racetrack. It is one where you can make fast. You just have to sometimes be really patient, and that might be what the number 8 machine of Andrew Hillman, who we're right on board with right now, is doing, just waiting for the number 49 of Mitchell Adams to make a mistake. I want to give a big shout out to our series sponsors here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Of course, starting with Stay Tuned Sports, as well as Buttkicker, www.thebuttkicker.com. Make sure you check them out. If you have a sim rig, they are an unbelievable addition to your sim rig. And even if you don't have a sim rig and you want just to feel a little bit more lifelike, make sure you check out thebuttkicker.com. Craig Setup Shop, craigsetupshop.co.uk, another great series sponsor. They provided the fixed setup that we have in action here tonight in this series, and definitely has been a very racy setup, and a lot of these drivers singing the praises of it here tonight. MaxGrafix, maxgrafix.co. Mitchell Adams in one of those maxgrafix.co trucks here leading the way. Brookstone Animal Hospital for sponsoring the Lucky Dog Award. Taz Racing Customs for sponsoring the Biggest Mover of the Race Award. Sim Shots for taking the pictures of all these races, and who knows, by the end of the night, if we have a green-white checker. We don't call it a green-white checker here in the National Sim Racing Association. It's Doug Milliner in the 6 having an absolute whale of a time coming out of turn number 4. That number 6 F-150 turning into a whale. But going back to what I was saying, we don't call them green-white checkers here in the National Sim Racing Association. We call them the last call, brought to you by Beer Street Journal. we'll see whether or not we get one of those here tonight. But big shout out to our friends over at BeerStreetJournal.com for sponsoring the last call. 25 laps to go here at Dover International Speedway. We're looking at the battle for the race lead. There is a battle inside the top 10. It is at the back half of the top 10. This is Travis White, Doug Neal, Jason Freeman, nose to tail right now. Freeman in the number 20 is on the freshest tires out of this bunch, but he is in the 11th position and going to have to get around the two teammates right in front of him.
And that's going to be a bit of a tall order, especially if these guys keep battling and getting side by side. It's hard enough to pass single file, but these guys have gotten side by side a time or two here, so that's going to make things a little bit more difficult. As there goes the number 20 down to the bottom of the 77. He's going to make short work of that right around him now. He's got his sights set on the next car in line, which is going to be Travis White, who's going to be on the high line, and around he goes. At number 20, Jason Freeman, he is definitely making some moves here, has a fast truck for the time being, currently scored in P10. I believe, yep, he is on the lead lap, just barely. He's 22 seconds back from the leader, and we're rocking about 24-second laps, so he is going to be close to the leaders here, but actually I think right now he might be lapping a little bit quicker. Let's see. Number 20, Jason Freeman, last time around ran a 24.2. And let's see, Mitchell Adams ran a 24.3. So yeah, he's actually lapping faster than the leaders right now. That's impressive.
Yeah, and there is the number 49 of Mitchell Adams, who is your race leader. Now, he has actually pulled out to a little bit of a gap over Andrew Himmelman. There is the number 8 machine. So as of right now, that number 49 of Adams, if he can hold on for the next 21 laps here at Dover, he would be going to victory lane. And looking at the winners so far this season, he already has a win to his credit this year, coming just a couple of races ago. In fact, the very last race last week at the Roval. So trying to become only the first driver to get a number 2 in the win column so far this season. But with 20 laps to go, anything can happen here at Dover. Himmelman behind him already has a win to his credit this season, but Ben Izenga sitting in third has yet to get to victory lane. But I'm seeing a little bit of right front damage on that 07 truck that I didn't see at the beginning of this run. And, I'm looking at the scoring pile on Izenga here, losing a ton of time to your front two. I think he's hurt that 07 truck.
Yeah, I think that's definitely not a place you want to get damaged. The right front, I've said it before, I'll say it again, it's about the worst place you could get any type of aero damage, and he's got damage on the right rear. So anytime you deform the right side of the body, generally it's not going to be good, because we are turning left. The air passing over the right side of your car is kind of what determines how well you can turn left. So if you deform that, you get the air to be a little bit more turbulent, you're going to have a bad time. And unfortunately, it looks like that's what has happened to Izenga. Is like you said, he continues to fall back just a little bit. I'm not sure how he got that damage. Judging by the fact that it's the front and back of the car, I would have to assume that at some point, coming out of one of these turns, the outside wall snuck up on him and got the better of him. But he's still running the podium, top 3, and again, for everything that Izenga has been through, I mean, driving through the field twice, having that speeding penalty, getting trapped a lap down on one of the pit sequences, to be running third, even despite the damage, I would say this is a night that he needs to be proud of. I mean, it's been an incredible effort all night long, no matter how it ends up, no matter whether he gets the win, no matter whether or not he finishes on the podium. He's made a fantastic effort tonight, and you just don't see this kind of drive, this kind of willpower out of a lot of guys. So it's been an impressive night. It's just unfortunate that it seems like the cards have fallen out of his favor so many times.
Yeah, and this is a battle for the third position as JT Poole, you saw the graphic just a little while ago, in about the last 6 or 7 laps has closed in from about 3 seconds back. Now side by side coming to the stripe, give the spot to JT Poole, who will get himself now back on the podium. He has gone to victory lane this season here in the Stay Tuned Sports podcast Truck Series. He picked up that win at Chicagoland in race number 2 of the season at that mile-and-a-half speedway. But up at the front of the field, you're not missing all too much. Mitchell Adams will bring up that time gap to Andrew Himmelman, now just under 0.8 of a second. Himmelman has closed in about 1/10 of a second over the last 5 laps or so that you can see right there, but Himmelman not necessarily gaining. Oh my goodness, as I say that, Andrew Himmelman just impaled the outside wall here, folks. We're going to have to go back and get a 3-wide TV replay of this one, because that could be all she wrote for the number 8 machine here.
Yeah, that was a hard hit. You can see right there, he just slid up, and that outside wall completely crumpled the right side of the car. Now it's looking a little bit similar to Izenga's machine, which is definitely going to make things a little bit easier for Mitchell Adams up in that 49, because that damage is definitely slowing him down. Himmelman is now getting overtaken by, or attempting to be overtaken by, Justin White in that number 2, who is a lap down. He himself has a little bit of right front damage, but it seems like his truck's just a little bit better on the bottom, and that A truck looking a little tight ever since he got that damage. So you mentioned he'd closed that gap up. It was down to about 0.8 of a second. Now 1.8. He has fallen back considerably. So that is never the time you want to make mistakes, Peter. You never want to make those bobbles right at the end. You don't really have time to recover from them.
Yeah, last time by Mitchell Adams was about 3.5 of a second faster than Andrew Himmelman. We'll see what it's like this time at the line, as we now just have 9 laps to go. Another 0.2 of a second for Mitchell Adams in the number 49 machine, as Himmelman having to fight around Nick Bradley there, one of the lap trucks. Bradley not having a great night in the lap department. He is a couple laps down, but he is inside the top 15. We'll see what happens this time at the stripe, and about half a second that last time by. And really, I think Andrew Himmelman, he's going to have to start watching out back, because JT Poole that last time by was 0.4 of a second faster. But Poole is 3 seconds back in the lap count, quickly winding down here in the Total Nonstop Racing 200 here in the National Sim Racing Association. Of course, tonight's race presented by the Punjabi Salami Group. That time by JT Poole, 0.2 of a second faster. I just don't think he has enough time to catch him. But of course, caution flag would change everything here. We've seen caution flags change things before. Jeff Price is actually running down the number 07 of Ben Izenga as well. This is going to be a battle for the 4th position. With all that damage on that 07 truck, it could give the spot to Jeff Price here. This is a battle for 4th.
Only could, and Price is one of those drivers who's been kind of having a silently good night. I mean, you look at that truck and you see that it doesn't have much damage on it, not too many scrapes, and he's been running inside the top 10 all night long, now trying to gain another position. So, like you said, with the damage on that 07, he's got a handful of laps to make something happen, and he is lapping a little bit quicker. How much quicker? Well, exactly 1,000th of a second last time around. It was a 24.851 to a 24.852. So, looks like the 07 maybe picked up the pace a little bit on that lap, but still, coming through 3 and 4, the number 14 does close the gap a little bit more. With 4 to go, I don't know, he might have time. You can see there's the gap right there. It was 0.2 on lap 192 and 194. 0.08 that time, so with that dirty air maybe unsettling that 14 a little bit. He got to him, and now pace starting to go away from him.
Yeah, so we'll continue to watch this battle. Just 3 laps to go up the front of the field. Mitchell Adams up to a 3-second gap. Himmelman still has 2.5 seconds back to JT Poole, who has 2.5 seconds on this battle right here. Jason Freeman and Ben Adams, this is a battle inside the top 10. This is a battle right now for the 9th position, and looks like Jason Freeman will take over that spot. But whoa! Izenga and Jeff Price having a little bit of extracurriculars on the backstretch. Izenga looked like he was all out of shape, and here comes Jeff Price, coming to just 2 laps to go for these two. Price to the inside. This is the battle for 4th.
And that was a huge moment. He really got up on the 07. Like you said, I think Izenga got a little out of shape, and the 14 was able to capitalize on that. Price just got right up on that bumper, didn't really give him any chance to breathe or get the car settled down. Then coming out of the turn, he was able to dive that thing down low, right down the banking, got to him, and now looks like he is going to make the overtake. But for the time being, as we're on our white flag lap, the number 49 is going to make his way down the backstretch for the final time. Lots of lap traffic in front of him, but it's no concern because this is a checkered flag for Mitchell Adams and that number 49 machine. He is going to win here at Dover.
Yep, and Mitchell Adams, the first driver to get 2 wins on the season. Andrew Himmelman going to come home in second. JT Poole third. Jeff Price with that late race pass to get around Ben Izenga, who's going to come home in fifth. Rounding out your top 5, Bill Edwards in 6th position. Maybe should have come down pit road and taken on tires there with about 80 laps to go when most of the 90 laps to go when most of the field elected to come down, and he did not, but everything working to plan here for the number 49 of Mitchell Adams. Gotta wait for him. Not sure if he's out of fuel, but he's definitely slow out there. No, I think he's just waiting for the fuel to go on by so he can burn it down for us here on 3 Wide TV. Winner of the Total Nonstop Racing 200 presented by Punjabi Salami here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Folks, thanks for tuning in here tonight. Tina Himmelman saying, way to go, Mitchell. Congratulations on the win, and that is what it looks like to win here on 3 Wide TV. Garrett Gleason was hoping for a yellow flag for Jason Freeman, but did not get it late in the race. Gleason was saying, let's get a mystery debris yellow. That doesn't happen in iRacing. It happens in real life, doesn't happen in iRacing. The Windsors was rooting on Bill Edwards. Thanks for stopping by this evening, Bill. Bill's family always here on 3 Wide TV. Bill coming home with a 6th place finish, and Adams really showing us how to celebrate one of these wins, back-to-back wins here at the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, burning it down here on the front stretch. We'll see if we can get some of these post-race interviews lined up for you. I gotta say that it is one thing to get a win here in the series, but when you do so on back-to-back weekends, it really is very, very special. Well, looks like Adams has pretty much parked it there on the start-finish line, so I think that will give us time to see if we can get tonight's 3rd place finisher lined up for your post-race interviews here. And of course, your 3rd place finisher here tonight is the driver of the number 26 machine, JT Poole. Let's get him up here into the booth. JT Poole, Peter Short, you got a copy?
Sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, had a lot of pace in that number 26 truck, especially on the short run here tonight, but you kind of had some long runs towards the end of the race. It might have worked against you, but all things considered, a really good race for you here tonight. Led a couple of laps and coming home with a 3rd place finish. Tell us about it.
Yeah, pretty tight truck all night. I didn't really like the setup. I didn't like how it drove. I really liked the loose setups, and I just never got to the point where it was loose. And I qualified towards the back, or not towards the back, but more further back than what I wanted to. It was 4th, but I wanted to be front row, because it's just pretty hard to pass here. And just after that, I just couldn't find any clean air for the most part, so I had to push pretty hard to find some, and then by the time I got up there, my tires were killed, so it started falling back.
Well, I find it funny that you said that you never felt like you were loose all night long. There were definitely other drivers who were on the flip side of that. This racetrack, one of those racetracks where you can kind of drive it differently to kind of suit your style and whatnot, and it definitely drives differently for different drivers and their style. But nonetheless, JT here, great finish here. One of the tougher racetracks to come to. And how important is it to come to a racetrack like this and walk away feeling like you got a really good finish and you got the most out of your truck?
Oh, yeah, it's pretty important because the only way you're going to finish here well is if you just keep it in the clean air and avoid the wrecks that do happen. So it's good to know that we did good when some of the other playoff leaders didn't have the greatest of races. So we're heading into next week with a pretty good looking point standing.
And speaking of next week, we go to the Atlanta Motor Speedway for the Simbox Button Box 250. What are your thoughts of going to the high-speed, high-banked 1.5 mile down, known as Hotlanta?
Yeah, we've been fast at the 1.5 mile all year, won Chicagoland, so I think I'll be pretty fast next week. They have the new dynamic track, so you can see some guys running at the top, and hopefully we get a good setup that can make this race more fun and not pretty tight.
Well, JT, definitely going to be an interesting one next week. Hot and slick, that will be for sure. But before we let you go, any shout-outs?
Yeah, my dad's his birthday. Happy birthday, Dad. I really wanted to win this for him, but I couldn't get there. It's long-run pace. But MaxGrafix Racing, all my teammates, Doug Miller, Ben Mashburn, Chris Starling, directors for putting this league on. You guys for broadcasting and all the supporters of the league, Stay Tuned Sports and company.
Absolutely. Well, JT, congratulations on your third place finish here tonight, and we'll see you again next week in Atlanta.
Yes, sir. Hopefully I'll be up there in the booth next week, too.
All right, well, that's going to do it for tonight's third place finisher. Let's see if Mr. Andre Graham Bush has caught up with tonight's runner-up, a very, very fast number 8 machine of Andrew Himmelman there, Andre.
Andrew Himmelman, Andre Graham Bush in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Andrew, you had a fantastic run all night long. You led a lot of laps, and it seemed like no matter what, you never really fell out of any of the podium positions. Luck kind of worked against you. The way the cautions fell and the way that everything kind of happened, you found yourself kind of fighting for that lead and having to, find yourself on restarts and getting those good jumps. But through it all, you brought it home P2. Just walk me through your race. How did the car feel?
It felt good, kind of disappointed for the second place, but just a really good performance by the team. So I can't be too mad, but it's hard to just hand off a race like that. I don't know that it was hard. You're trying to chase some guys down, and I'm some lap cars kind of were there sticking their nose and trying to pass you when you're a couple laps down. So it's kind of annoying, but that's just racing. But kind of disappointed, but at the same time, really happy for the team. But we can't just hand away races like that much.
Yeah, I can definitely see where it would be frustrating when you feel like you got the car to win and it just doesn't come to fruition. But despite that, there's a silver lining to everything, and I think that silver lining is that you had a lot of pace tonight. You're carrying a lot of momentum going forward into next week at Atlanta. How do you feel about Atlanta? Is that a track you're looking forward to? You think you're going to be able to keep this speed going?
Yeah, I like Atlanta, but as you said about the momentum, I think it's just a really good thing to see us really competing in this series. Last season we weren't up here for wins, so it's just such a good thing to see just really competing in this series and really being out there for wins. It's just a really good thing to see. I can't just dwell on something. I got to move on to the next race, and hopefully we can go get a win at Atlanta. I actually hate Dover as a track, so I wasn't expecting a P2. So
absolutely, it was, like I said, it was a great run, and you made some moves out there tonight that I was just watching them, man, and I couldn't believe some of the moves you were making. It was an absolutely awesome show, and to get P2 at a track that you admittedly aren't too fond of. Hey, you can never complain about that. So congratulations on your P2. Before we let you go, Andrew, anybody you'd like to shout out or thank?
GTR for sponsoring the SimShots Racing team. You can use GTR Sim for 10% off. Buttkicker. You can always like SimShots on Facebook. My family for letting me race. My granddad for watching all the races all the time.
All right. Well, Andrew, again, congratulations on P2, and hopefully we're talking to you next week.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, that was Andrew Himmelman out of the booth. Peter, I don't have permissions to move him, so there you go. Now, Peter Short's going to catch up with our race winner, Mitchell Adams.
Yeah, and for the second week in a row right here on 3 Wide TV, Mitchell Adams getting to go to victory lane, but here tonight at Dover, the Roval last week, and here tonight a very different 1 mile racetrack. Mitchell, congratulations. Tell us about your night.
It was a really good night for the MaxGrafix SimShots Racing number 49 track. Started just outside the top 10, which I didn't feel good about my short run speed all night tonight. So I was impressed with that. I knew coming into this race it was all about long run and tire saving for me, because I usually am really good at that. And that was the goal coming out. And you see those guys kind of pulled away and kind of caught me when I was out front on the short runs, but I was able to keep it there on long runs and catch back up and get some really good pace, and I think that was what won us the race tonight.
Well, I mean, it all came down to that final pit stop. You pitted one lap before Andrew pitted, and you also had a fantastic pit time. You got on pit road very well, very quickly. How important was that final stop, and how important was it that you pitted one lap before Andrew did and kind of pulled off the undercut?
I knew that the way the race had been going is you really needed to be out in the lead controlling the pace if you really wanted to have a chance, because it was really hard to pass once the tires wore out. And so I knew that the key to the end was getting out in front, and I knew I had to short pit him there, and ended up working out. I almost sped on the last stop. I locked the brakes up getting down into pit road, but luckily got it woed up, and it was a good run for us.
Well, you definitely did a fantastic job getting on pit road and was able to get out in front and like you said, kind of control the pace of the race all the way to the end. But next week, speaking of pace, we go to Atlanta for 160 laps, 250 miles around that mile-and-a-half racetrack. What are your thoughts about Atlanta?
I really like Atlanta. That's one of my favorite mile-and-a-halves. Just kind of like here tonight, the tire-saving tracks and the tracks that wear a lot of tires out really suit my driving style, and I really tend to do well there. And we got one tonight, and I expect this 49 to be up front at Atlanta.
Well, folks, you heard it here first. Mitchell Adams looking to go back-to-back here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. The only driver this season to win more than once here in the season. But Mitchell, before we let you go, any shout-outs?
Yeah, you got to thank all the sponsors. As usual, we got MaxGrafix on the hood of the truck again, SimShots, Buttkicker, GTR Sim, where you can use code GTR Sim to get 10% off your order. My Nana and Papa, Aunt Kelly and Bryce, Mom and Dad, and all the 49 fans. I know Nicole's watching tonight. Hi, Nicole. And yeah, just thank you guys for the broadcast and the league.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations, Mitchell, once again. You're back-to-back series champion. You're back-to-back race winner. Mitchell, we'll see you again next week at Atlanta.
Thank you.
All right, well, folks, that's going to do it for our post-race interviews here on 3 Wide TV. Let's see if we can bring up those final race results for you here after the conclusion of tonight's Total Nonstop Racing 200 presented by Punjabi Salami. Mitchell Adams, we just talked to him, is your race winner by 3 seconds over Andrew Himmelman. Definitely that gap ballooned late in the race. Himmelman was able to finish about 1.5 seconds in front of JT Poole. Jeff Price coming home in 4th. Ben Izenga rounding out your top 5. That 07 picked up the pole award, brought to you by Craig Setup Shop. Make sure you check them out, craigsetupshop.co.uk after the race if you want some great setups. Bill Edwards finishing in the 6th position here tonight. Christopher Darling, Doug Miller are finishing in 7th and 8th. Finishing in 9th, Jason Freeman, and finishing in the 10th position. And the last truck on the lead lap, Ben Adams, 24.7 seconds behind your race leader there, Andre.
And looking a little bit further back, Doug Neal in that 77 car with an impressive recovery. We talked about how he was involved in a few incidents there early on, but he overcame it all the way back up to just outside the top 10 there in P11. Travis White behind him, followed by Colin Ulrey, Ben Mashburn in the 24, who had a lot of speed early on. Unfortunately, some late race incidents set him back a little bit, and that damage was just something that he couldn't quite overcome, ending up P14. Nick Bradley in P15, Philip Scott in 16th, Justin White 17th, and in 18th, it's going to be Matt Matt Vanderkoy. Matt Vanderkoy. Got it. Sorry.
And finishing in the 19th position, Tristan Maher, who had a tough end of the race here tonight. Had a lot of pace in the 17, but it was not meant to be. Monty Glover rounding out your top 20 as the iRacing blimp. We're racing the blimp here on 3 Wide TV right here at the end of the night. We're gonna pass the blimp. We're gonna beat the blimp. Kyle Lewis finishing in the 21st position. He definitely beat the blimp here tonight. Jordan Scheffler finishing 22nd. Jamar Dumas 23rd. Zach Howell 24th. Evan Burke 25th. Garrett Gleason in 26th. TJ Buck, Jason Gracias, both of those trucks having a coming together there around lap number 36. Then looking a little bit further back and rounding out your field, Peter Serto in the number 32 machine, who just had absolutely rotten luck at the top of the show in that Jansen machine. I believe connection issues on his truck, and Evan Gilbert did not start here tonight. Andre.
And that is going to round out your finishing order, so everybody knows where their favorite driver finished. But that is pretty much going to do it for our post-race coverage here at Dover. I'm Andre Grambush for 3Wide TV, again alongside Peter Schwartz. Shout out to, again, the NSRA Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series for putting on these races every weekend that we get to watch and enjoy. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we will catch you at Atlanta.